Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
The hymn, there's a old hymn, Sweet, Sweet Spirit in This Place, comes to my mind this morning, and I'm grateful for the faces that I'm seeing. And seeing Fred for the first time. Nice to meet you. Finally. I'll probably owe him a milkshake or something for that. So there are two readings for this morning, and one I couldn't not do this because it's a special passage to me, is out of the Luke narrative of Jesus's birth, Luke 2:8-9. Now in that same region there were shepherds living in the fields, keeping watch over their flock by night. Suddenly an angel of the Lord stood before them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. But the angel said to them, "Fear not, for behold, I am bringing you good news of great joy for all the people." And the other one is from my favorite gospel of Mary Oliver, the poem Mindful. Every day I see or hear something that more or less kills me with delight, that leaves me like a needle in the haystack of light. It was what I was born for, to look, to listen, to lose myself inside this soft world, to instruct myself over and over in joy and acclamation. Nor am I talking about the exceptional, the fearful, the dreadful, the very elegant, but of the ordinary, the common, the very drab, the daily presentations of joy. O good scholar, I say to myself, how can you help but grow wise with such teachings as these? The untrimmable light of the world, the ocean's shine, the prayers that are made out of grass. The Moravians are a-stirring this morning. Yeah. But here we are this Sunday. It's the third Sunday in what most of the Christian church calls Advent. 2 weeks ago, we looked at the Advent theme of hope. We skipped over faith. And then next week's theme is peace. Today is dedicated to the message of joy, and rightfully called the Shepherd's Sunday. I don't know about you guys, but I find joy to be a very interesting topic. When you think of joy, what comes to your mind?
My dog.
Your dog. I love it. Usually it's something like a special occasion, graduation or a wedding. Perhaps the birth of a child, like is celebrated at Christmas time. I always imagine that the angels celebrate every time a child is born, but that's a topic for another day. The point is that we most often associate joy with peak occasions, with rare events that only happen like a handful of times in a person's life. The exceptional, the extravagant, Mary Oliver calls it. Christmas, at least in the Christian tradition, seems to pinpoint joy to a one-time supernatural event that is the birth of this child Jesus over 2,000 years ago. It's no wonder that this holiday season can be depressing for so many people who are alone on December 25th, people who have limited means or are overextended financially, physically, emotionally, mentally. People who are swept up in this joyous crescendo to the creche, only to be dropped off the cliff in the aftermath of Christmas blues. What joy is there to be had on December 26th. Ever felt that before? I'm not painting a very joyful picture, I know. But this is the picture of what happens when the primary focus of joy comes from a rare occurrence and external sources. It's as though we need something outside of ourselves, something big that brings us joy. Then we expend effort chasing after joy, the next big thing. As a counselor at Guilford College, I heard so many times, I'm just tired of the question, what are you going to be when you grow up? Where are you going to college? What are you going to major in? What are you going to do when you get out? When are you getting married? When are you having children? When are you retiring? You know, the questions go on and on. Pearl Buck, the beloved author, once observed that many people lose small joys, like a puppy dog, in hope for big happiness. So I kind of want to reconstruct our perspective on Christmas joy by first taking a look at what might have been intended originally and then expand on it from there. We know that the people in Jesus' time were in dire need of hope and joy. Who could forget the brutish Roman ruler, King Herod the Great, I don't know how he earned that, had executed over half of the Jewish court of elders, almost all of his enemies, his relatives, even his sons and his wife, because they disagreed with him. I think we'd all be dead if that had been the case. Taxation at the time was a 50-50 system. One for me, one for Caesar. There was tension and tyranny throughout the regions where armed Roman soldiers walked the streets to maintain an oppressive police state. The promises that came with those angelic announcements of Jesus' pending arrival were welcome news. It was joyful news. Finally, a leader to bring the Jewish people salvation from cruel domination and a waning faith. The faith of the Romans had kind of invaded them. And here we stand 2 millennia past that time. A world away, and yet so many people who still anticipate joy and hope through salvation brought to them by something or someone beyond themselves. The ads on the television alone speak to that. This kind of joy is external. External joy relies on a specific circumstance or a possession or a person even in order for us to experience joy. Well, if there's anything those of us here have learned from Quakerism, it's that we have that hope. We have that joy, even that salvation inside of us. It's known to us as our inner teacher or your higher self or the Holy Spirit, whatever you call it for yourself. The Rabbi Jesus declared this in the Christian text of John chapter 16 when he, just before his crucifixion, told his disciples, I speak these things in the world so that they may have my joy made complete within them. This kind of joy is internal. It's a state of being that exists regardless of external states. It's not a fleeting emotion that dissipates and then disappears as soon as circumstances shift. Life doesn't have to be perfect for us to have joy. But what does it look like to have joy to be complete within us? First, we have to look at an awareness of joy. Y'all know me well enough by now that every good thing comes from self-awareness, and that includes joy. Finding joy within ourselves can be as simple as pushing the pause button on our doing and taking some deep breaths and just be for a few minutes. And while you're pausing and breathing, be aware of what is it that brings you joy in life. Big joys and small joys. Savor some of those joys before you return to whatever it is that was keeping you busy. And from awareness, we can begin to create a practice of joy by taking more opportunities to breathe and appreciate the joys in your life. Stoplights are lines in the grocery store. Those are great opportunities to breathe and reflect on joy. Gratitude, by the way, is a doorway. It's the main entrance. I call it the gateway drug to joy, being grateful. Some people make a habit of writing a daily list of what brings them joy, what they're grateful for. There's even gratitude journals. And I like to call that a habit of the heart. So as you begin to consider each day and throughout each day what brings you joy and gratitude, your mind will begin to notice when you encounter joy throughout the day. Quite naturally, you develop a habit of the mind and begin seeing joy where you might have otherwise overlooked it. I don't know if you've ever bought something for yourself, maybe a red car or a fancy hat or something, and you begin to notice, wow, there goes my car and there goes my hat. Your brain is wired to pick up on what you pay attention to. And so that part of your brain gets triggered by what you notice. The cool thing is that part of the brain is also where dopamine is made. So as Henry Nouwen said, joy doesn't simply happen to us. We have to choose joy, and we have to choose it daily. So if you have a habit of the heart for joy, then a habit of the mind, why not develop a habit of joy? Finally, joy can become a way of life as we nurture our awareness of joy and cultivate the habits to sustain it. Now, mind you, I am in no way encouraging anybody to candy coat any situation that is difficult or unpleasant. Spiritual bypass is a harmful practice that utilizes joy as a means to avoid or repress painful emotions. We can be connected to our joy, complete joy within ourselves, while still confronting problems and processing unresolved emotions. But joy, along with hope, can become a foundation. It's a balance from which we can live our lives even as we're dealing with challenging situations. It's not an either or. As joy becomes a way of life, we can begin to share joy with others, even something as simple as a smile or a kind gesture, a sincere compliment, or an appreciation that you share with someone else. Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh summarized this stage of joy when he wrote, "Sometimes your joy is the source of your smile, but sometimes your smile can be the source of joy." Doesn't take much. So as we begin to nurture and then share joy, we can access it from within without hesitation. It becomes a consistent way of being. Julian of Norwich put it best when she wrote, "The fullness of joy is to behold God in everything, the sacred, the good in everything." Kind of like Mr. Rogers, look for the helpers. What's the good in this? What's the joy in this? We can behold great joys like the angels proclaimed, and small joys like the brush of the breeze across your face, or a reassuring look shared with a stranger. When's the last time you indulged in a simple joy like splashing in a mud puddle, or taking a new route to a familiar spot? That's easy, especially in Winston. Or maybe I love walking outside in the winter to look at the starry sky. Nothing clearer than that. Joy is all around us when we pay attention to it and nurture our attention for it. Joy is also an essential facet in the Advent story. So this week, as we move another step closer to Christmas, the light of Christmas, I'd like to challenge you to open your awareness of joy by making a list of 20 things that bring you joy. That should be really easy. And then choose 2 or 3 that you can do in the days that follow that. And then practice that practice of joy throughout the winter season. As we grow in our connection to that inner teacher, to that complete joy within ourselves, we too can be the bringers of good news, of great joy to all people. And so it is. Amen.
Amen.